So as promised in the previous video, let's get to the cool stuff of Tasmota. There's a feature that I love. It's one of my favorite features in Tasmota. It's called Device Groups. And what does all that do? Well, let's roll back just a little bit and describe an exact problem that a lot of smart homes have, or remote controlled homes. Someone comes by, turns the light switch off, and then the smart bulbs turn off, and you can't turn them back on using your voice assistant or your home automation software or whatever it might be to turn them back on. So the easiest solution, put a piece of tape on it, tell people not to turn the light switches off. I mean, because it's that simple to make someone forget what they've learned all their lives to push a button or a switch when they walk in a room, right? Yeah, let's not do that. So one of my rules is let's not remove functionality while we add functionality. So what does that mean? You just want to put something on top. So you still want to be able to push the button, push the switch, whatever, because you don't want to have to reteach yourself or anybody else in the home to how to turn on the lights. But yet you still want to do some cool automation, say do some dimmed light based off of, say, the alarm is set at night, and then you walk in the room, a motion sensor kicks on, sees you, and then turns the light on at 15%. Pretty cool stuff that you can do with smart bulbs. And as well as, I know a lot of people like to do where they do different color temperatures throughout the day. They maybe start with a warm, then go to a cool, then back down to a warm, and that's really what you can do with smart bulbs in that room combined with some switches. Well, how do you do all this stuff? A typical circuit is going to be, say, one light switch that's powered from the breaker box. So this will be kind of like the wire that you don't really see in the wall. It goes to your typical switch. Then there'll be another wire in between that switch, and then you'll have a smart bulb. Well, a smart bulb really needs power all the time. And in a typical fashion is that when you turn the switch off, and this is just a single pole where there's one light switch in the room, you turn it off, well, that turns off the circuit, which turns off the light bulb, so then you can't turn that smart bulb on using whatever it is. Well, that's where things get a little different. This is just a dumb switch. We're going to change it out to a smart switch. So the same one we used last week was the little Martin Jerry smart switch, but you can use pretty much any different type of switch or whatever it might be. We're going to get to some other little advanced ones, but I wanted to start off simple first. So now you've put this switch in the room. Hey, now let's just do the same exact thing, right? Well, the same problem happens. If you turn off the smart switch, it turns off the relay, which is just like turning off the switch. It just has a switch inside. It turns off the power, which turns off your smart bulb. What if you could change this switch where it continued to allow power to go to the smart bulb? But when you came in the room and pushed the button, it would actually send a command to the light bulb to turn it off or turn it on. And then that's going to be just like same thing you've always learned your whole life, or everyone else. Come in, push the button, the light turns on, push the button, the light turns off. Then you can even do cool stuff because, you know, the kids forget to leave the lights on, and you can say, hey, they turn the lights on, do 30 minutes. Start a 30-minute timer, it turns their lights off. Very cool. Yeah, it probably annoys them, but hey, maybe they'll turn their lights off. But yeah, it's just an OCD thing because yeah, we do LED lighting. It probably doesn't use a whole lot, but hey, we had to deal with it when we were kids and turn our damn lights off, so they should too, right? But then what else can you do? Well, for instance, this is the color temperature. So you could do something as cool as we talked about doing multi-press. So now you could do double press, and then that would turn the bulb to, say, a warm white. You could, say, do a triple press and do to a cool white. You could do all kinds of stuff. It really just however your imagination is and what business rules you want to do in your home. So you can even change colors, whatever it may be. So let's jump in and I'll show you some of the stuff we'll do to do this little setup, and then we'll get on to the other ones with dealing with more switches and stuff and get a little more advanced. But once you get your feet wet, you'll be right on your way of doing device groups. Let's check out in the console. So we got our test board set up and we have our light bulb going and our switch. Now this configuration would be if we just put a smart switch or be a regular switch, and if you wouldn't turn it off, you would just turn off the bulb. So we turn it off, well then that turns off the bulb, and then, well, this happens if you go look at it in Home Assistant. So once you look in Home Assistant and say, well, I'm trying to turn it on, right? Well, you'll notice it's grayed out. That's because the power's gone. So when you click on it, yeah, it shows unavailable because there's no power on it. Now, if we come in here and we turn the switch back on, now whether we turn it on with the button or using the GUI, you'll see the bulb will come back. And there it is, it reconnects and Home Assistant sees it, and we can turn the bulb on and off using the GUI or whatever automation. So how do we fix this? Well, let's go in and take a look at the actual switch. Now, if you remember, we did want to be able to actually still turn the power off to the light fixture just, to satisfy the code police, right? Now, if you don't want to do this and just pass the load to it and where the load is always hot, you could do that as well. But if you go to configuration, go to configure template. Now remember, the relay is on GPIO 12. So there's an option called output high and output low. And what output high means, it's going to just hold that pin or that channel, which is where the relay is at. It's going to hold it closed so there's power going to it all the time. Now, if you wanted to go in here and you want to turn it off so you could do whatever, change the bulbs or whatever, you come in here and change this to output low. And I would always still check to make sure that there is no power when you're working on it using like a little tester or a meter. Now, we do need a fake relay. So we'll go ahead and just use GPIO 15. That looks good. So we'll go in here and set relay and put relay 1 and hit save. When you turn things on and off, nothing is actually turning off and on. So when you go to Home Assistant, you can actually turn the switch on and off. I can actually push the button and the switch turns on and off. But you'll notice the bulb is still on because we're just changing a fake relay. So nothing's really happening except, I guess internally if you really want to be technical. But how do we make it talk to each other? So check this out. Now, I'm not going to go through everything in this document, but I just wanted to show you I'm not making this stuff up because there's a set option 85. There's a bunch of good stuff in here. And the way device groups work, you can see here it uses UDP multicast. It does not use MQTT, so don't really need it. You could actually, if you weren't using anything else with it, you could actually disable MQTT, but I just still use it because I like to address things with it. You need a dev group name. If you leave dev group name default, it's going to use the group topic. Well, there's an issue with that. If you leave the default dev group as blank and the group topic is going to default to Tasmota's, all of your devices are going to be in this one device group. That's bad. Don't do that. So always go and set the dev group name. So we'll go to the console and we're just going to call it test board. And maybe name it something that, like that room name or whatever. And I like to use lowercase because I don't have to remember case and everything. So we'll set dev group name as test board. Now I know there's dev group name 2, 3, and 4, but that's a later thing we're going to get to when we do some little more advanced stuff. Now the switch is going to reboot. Now also I want to come in here and do set option 85 space 1. You can do SO85 1, but just hit enter. And the switch is also, I think, going to reboot. We're going to jump over to the bulb. The same thing, dev group name, test board. It's going to restart. So also set option 85, which is to turn on the device groups. So we'll wait for this to restart. And then I do want to check one thing. If you forget the command, they're all down here in the documentation. They have this command called dev group status. Very powerful command. So we'll just do dev group status, and that shows us the status of our device group. And it shows test board, and it shows I have 2 members. That's good. So I've got 10.118. This bulb we're on is 123. And so we have 123 and we have 118 are the 2 members. So that's the switch and the bulb. Now, there's another cool feature, but in this situation, we're going to just use everything. It's called dev group share. And what does it share on the input and the output? So we're going to just let it share everything, but I want to check it. So I'll just type in dev group share, and you can see it says in FFFF, that means everything. Out, FF, it's out. It's going to share everything in and out. And then we'll check the switch. Dev group share, it's sharing everything in and out. So now watch this. I'm gonna push the button and you'll see the bulb turn on. And you see it's pretty stupid fast. And you'll also notice, if you look in Home Assistant, that when I push the button, both of them turn on and off. Same thing, if I do turn off the switch, it turns the bulb off, and then if I turn the bulb on and off, it turns the switch on and off. That's that dev group share stuff where it shares everything in and out, so it kind of keeps everything in sync. So I know the light bulb has probably went off in your head. I'm kind of pun intended, that's a stupid dad joke, but you can see already how you could do this with a bunch of different devices where you can keep them in sync. Or if you turn one off and turn one on, it turns all of them and keeps everything in alignment. It's really that simple. We didn't do any rules. You realize we just did that set option 85 and set the dev group name of each one, and that's it. If you did want to go back and you on this switch and you wanted to satisfy the code police, if you go to and say we're going to set that relay to output low and then save it, you're going to see the bulb turn off because that turns the relay off. Now you've locked that relay, the physical relay. There's no power going to the bulb now, even though it shows on, because remember, that's just a fake relay. If you go look at Home Assistant, you give it a second, it will time out because the last will and testament will show it fail. It goes to offline, and that's when Home Assistant is going to mark it as unavailable. And if you ever wonder what last will and testament, the LWT of MQTT, it's basically, and you just saw it go off, is when something falls off the network, is the MQTT broker says, hey, I haven't seen you in a while, so I guess you've died, you fell off. So it'll go ahead and mark in MQTT for everybody to see that, hey, this device is now offline. So that's where Home Assistant knows it's unavailable. So hopefully you've learned some cool stuff with device groups and really see the awesome power of it. Now, I don't see any support at this time for device groups in ESP Home. So it's really just going to be a Tasmota thing. Now, the really cool thing I know we've talked about in Discord would be if someone would pick up the device group packets, which are just UDP, through like Node-RED or like a container of some sort, and then just make it talk to Zigbee to MQTT and just work. That would be pretty badass. So if you know some programming geeks out there, definitely let us know down in the comments below. Maybe we'll help out and get some people together on that project if we can find some people. So don't forget, come jump in the Discord, hang out with us, share a bunch of different stuff that you've done with Device Groups. Tell PCDM he did an awesome job at Device Groups. Still one of my favorite features. And definitely, I do appreciate all the Patreon subscribers and everyone out there helping and doing things and sharing and whatever it may be. And y'all know the drill. Press all them buttons and y'all take care.
Oh, they're chasing that dinosaur.
Look, he sees you right there.
You want one of those next year?
My body bigger.
You want to be a dinosaur next year? Okay.
What a minute.
I'm going to get it on Amazon right now. Super
I'll
race you. Ready?
Blaze is on the cage.
Did he get a picture?